What's up guys, it is Dan from FightWave, and today I am joined by somebody I am incredibly excited to speak with, the first of our UFC Noche coverage. And today's guest, guys, doesn't need an introduction, but you know how we do it on FightWave. We always love to give our guests an introduction. One of the most exciting lightweights on the planet right now. In my opinion, if you are not keeping an eye on Daniel Zellhuber going into UFC Noche, you are doing yourself a vast disservice. Golden boy for good reason. He faces Esteban Ribovics in a fight for the ages. Only 25 years of age. The sky is the limit for this young man. I am privileged to be joined by the golden boy, Mr. Daniel Zellhuber. Daniel, thank you so much for your time, my man. First and foremost, how are you doing?
Hi, brother. Thank you for inviting me to the show. I'm pretty good, brother. You know, fight camp is going good. Good like health wise. I'm good. I'm in the best shape that I ever been for a fight. The weight is on point, so I'm pretty much just waiting to the day to arrive and do my job.
Definitely. And first and foremost, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. And of course, you know, UFC Noche, just one of the most remarkable events in UFC history. A massive milestone for Latin America and, you know, fight fans from Latin America worldwide. Talk to me a little bit about the emotions. Just a month out at this point. How are you feeling?
You know, the fight camp for me has been long. I've been here in Vegas for 13 weeks straight. So it's been a long fight camp. You know, I usually don't think actually about fight camps because I'm always training. Even while I'm in Mexico after the fights for a couple of weeks or months, maybe, I'm always trying to stay training. So I feel good. I feel I'm in a good spot. I've been evolving all the areas of the MMA, you know, considering Steban is a striker. Uh, I felt that the fight is not gonna be too much on the ground. But either way, I'm ready. You know, like you never know. My game plan might be take him down. So
No, yeah, definitely. And of course, you know, just fighting in front of a massive home crowd, I think just seeing the card, I know that there's going to be a lot of fans from Mexico in specific that will be in attendance. And of course, I think if I remember correctly, you're opening up the main card. Talk to me a little bit about just the environment, the anticipation. What is your kind of hopes or expectation when you walk out at UFC Noche that you'll be seeing in the audience and just from the entire vibe at the Sphere?
you know, I feel that the Mexican crowd is always supportive and loud, and you know, Mexican people are crazy. So that's something that I love about fighting in these Mexican dates. UFC has given me the opportunity to fight in these big Mexican events. You know, I fight in Noche UFC 1, I fight in Mexico City, now I'm fighting in Noche UFC 2, and the most important combat event sports like in the decade. So I'm excited to be part of this journey. And I'm just excited, you know. I know that the public is gonna support me, and even if not, I'm ready for whatever, you know. When it's about fighting, I'm just really getting focused on like the game plan in how am I gonna do in the fight, what I need to do, and I try to don't think too much about the crowd or stuff like that. So I feel that it's gonna be important having the crowd on my side, but it's not the most important thing.
No, yeah, definitely. And when you talk about just the representation on this card, you have fighters from Veracruz to Baja California to Jalisco who are all fighting on this card. Across all of Mexico, there is representation on UFC Noche. Coming at a time where, you know, just a decade ago, there wasn't a lot of fighters from Mexico in the UFC to just a couple of years ago, three active champions from Mexico at the same time. When you look at that, you see that you've got your small footprint in a massive boom of Mexican MMA. How much does that excite you? And just seeing the growth in Mexican MMA from then to now.
You know, it's funny because the other day I was talking with a friend about it, that the moment where Brandon Moreno became champion kind of like was a inflection point in Mexican MMA, you know? I feel that a lot of us as fighters start believing more in our capabilities when Brandon became champion, you know? Even if right now he's not the champion anymore, the fact that he hold that belt, the fact that he made everything out of Mexico, uh, he fight against all the odds, against all the problems, against all the lacks of support that we have in Mexico in this sport in particular. So I feel that the moment when he became champion was like a very important point. And then Alexa became former champ. Then Jair became interim champion. So kind of like all these three things happening together at the same time was something that showed us as a culture that we can do the stops, you know. it's hard because we don't have wrestling in Mexico and we don't have a lot of support in this sport. But if we really desire something, we're gonna find a way to do it. And that's why I'm here also in Vegas because I need to keep evolving and all these all these great fighters that ever represent Mexico in the UFC and not only the champions, all the other fighters, Goyito Perez, Turbo Perez, all the really OGs of Mexico, kind of like excite us. And at least for me, it's a really important moment in my career right now because I feel that I am like about to be that guy. I feel that I am the new generation of Mexican fighters that are more completely more well-rounded, and you know having all my country and all these amazing people to serve as a guide. It's great.
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned kind of the turning point being the Brandon Moreno winning the belt. I don't think that gets talked about enough just in terms of the footprint that kind of left on Mexican MMA. And of course, you talk about being a part of a generation coming up just right after that. I think, just when that happened, you had either just made your UFC debut or just gotten signed to the UFC through the Contender Series. So the timing on it was just amazing. Talk to me a little bit now about you look at this card, and it's arguably the most, when you talk about Latin America representation, the most diverse card we've ever seen across the entirety of Latin America, with 4 countries from Latin America being represented, from Peru to, Argentina to Mexico, and then I'm blanking on one more, but I know there is one
Chile.
more. Chile, yeah, Ignacio Bahamondes. Just a remarkable, fight card for the entirety of Latin America. And there's a lot of young talent on this card. Looking at just the fight card, you got yourself, Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodriguez, who I know you're close friends with, Esteban Ribovic, your opponent, very young fighter. This fight card is about as young as you can get when you look at a generation of fighters coming up out of, just a region that hasn't really had that boom until now. What are your thoughts on just how young the card is and the potential that all the fighters on this card have?
I feel that UFC knows that we are the next UFC superstars in the future, so they are trying to build our image. Of course, this is a card that is going to happen one time in a lifetime, but why they don't put the biggest stars yet or the biggest stars right now? They do it because they know that Latin America, because I'm not right now, I'm not talking only about Mexico. I'm talking about, as you say, Argentina, Chile, Peru. Like Latin America have a lot of talent and the sport is growing fast down there. So UFC start realizing that, and that's why they are investing all this money in this card. Because they can put Conor McGregor even in this card. They can put whatever they want, and everybody would say yes because it's the biggest opportunity of a lifetime. Imagine being the first generation of fighters that fought in the sphere. Not only in MMA, like in all the combat sports, we are the first ones, and forever we're gonna be the first ones to fight there. So I feel that the UFC is doing this because they trust somehow we're gonna be the next big thing in the company. Especially as you say, fighters like me, like Stevan, that can't speak English with you guys, that we can speak other languages. We know how to sell fights. We are excited fighters. We are young. So I feel that UFC know their business. They are not new about this, and they are doing like a big investment in new talent instead of investing always in the same people. Because people already love Justin Gaethje, people already love Dustin Poirier, people already love Conor McGregor, but UFC is always trying to grow more fighters, to grow new superstars, and I feel that probably not everybody in the card is gonna end up being a superstar, but they know that some might, so that's why they are doing this.
Definitely. And I love that you said just not putting all their eggs in one basket and really trying to spark that next generation, more importantly, of young fighters and get these young fans kind of invested in the UFC. And of course, you talk about taking the right steps and right initiative. Daniel, with your career, when you talk about a young fighter who's really taken it into their own hands, you're just a remarkable example of that. Taking your talents to Las Vegas, training at Extreme Couture for this training camp and others prior. What's that kind of transition been like, training in Las Vegas, getting a ton of different looks, and just the overall vibe in Vegas?
The hardest thing as a foreign fighter is get away of your family. A lot of people is always asking to me like, what's the hardest part of being a UFC fighter, or what's the hardest part of being training in Vegas, or what is like to train in Vegas? And to be honest with you, brother, it's just the same. It's my work. I love to do it. If I could train 6 times a day, I would probably do it. And so the training part is not the problem. I love learning. I love having new teachers. I love hanging out with my professors too. I spend a lot of time with Eric, with my coach Jorge Capetillo, with coach Hector Vasquez. So that's not the main problem. The hardest part, and I'm gonna say that I'm talking for all the foreign fighters that are in USA. The hardest part is leave your family. In Mexico, at least, we are a very family oriented country. And, not seeing my brother, my mother, my father, my girlfriend, like my whole family, not being able to hang out with those guys for 3, 4, 5 months, that's, that's the hardest part for me. But training wise, bro, I'm training in one of the biggest gyms. I'm training surrounded by the great champions, but people that I never thought I would meet. I'm training with Jeremy Kennedy, with Aljamain Sterling, with Kai Kamaka. I'm training with elite grapplers. Right now, Coach Charles Cobrinha is here. I don't know if you know a lot about Jiu Jitsu, but he's a former ADCC champion, Grand Slam, like a legend, a living legend in Jiu Jitsu. And being able to spend time with these guys, learn, catch their brains, and also like spending time with the guys, you can see it, but right now I'm seeing guys in here fucking joking with me because they're my friends and we all live here together. We have the same dream. So like training wise is good being here in Vegas, hot as fuck, but it's good.
The Las Vegas Heat and California Heat is just killer right now. But on top of that, you mentioned on your Instagram, and of course training with guys like Eric Nixnick as a head coach, Jorge Capetillo, as you mentioned. You said, and I might butcher this because obviously I don't speak Spanish, but I'm gonna try my best. You said, "No somos equipos, somos familia," which is not we are. We're not a team, we're family. And when you talk about just getting an adopted family away from your actual family, the fight game is one of those most kind of like understanding, I feel like, sports where everyone kind of gets together under the same struggle. What has it been like? Just like you mentioned, some of the names, Aljamain Sterling, Kai Kamaka, Jeremy Kennedy, who is criminally underrated. I gotta mention, one of the guys that doesn't get talked about enough. What has
Yeah.
it been like with you, just picking their brains, not even just training with them, but getting advice from them, guys that are in this sport for 10, 15 plus years already, picking their brains? What's that kind of been like? And also, like you mentioned, having them to kind of rally behind you and be a support system when you don't have your close family near you in this moment.
You know, it's funny because the first fight camps that I ever had here in Vegas, they really don't talk too much with me. And I understand it was because I was a new guy. They didn't know me. They didn't want to get hurt. Because, some guys just go out there, train, and hurt fighters. So they need to be aware of that. Uh, but now, after a couple of years, I've been in Extreme Couture for 5 fights. This is going to be my fifth UFC fight. That's crazy. So they already know me. They already know that I'm a hard worker guy, that I'm a very respectful person when it comes about the other fighters. I really love to learn, and I'm always asking questions with all the respect, like I know, as you say, Jeremy is one of the most talented fighters that I know. He's great on the grappling, great wall wrestling. And I love the fact that I just, right now, I can just go and, hey, Jeremy, could you show me what you do there? Or hey, could you maybe give me a class? And he's always down to it, He's never like, oh no, brother, I have things to do. Like he's that type of guy that would take 1 hour of their weekend just to show me stuff. And for me, seeing that coming out from a fighter that already fought for Bellator featherweight title, it's great because that showed me how I need to be with the new generations. I know that right now I'm the new generation, but in a couple of years there's gonna be a new one, and it's good. So the example that other fighters are setting up, Coach Eric always says the same. We're a family. We need to help each other because if we don't help each other, then who's gonna do it?
Definitely. And one thing I love that you mentioned is just the maturity beyond your years. I feel like when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to a seasoned veteran who's been in this sport 15, 20 plus years, has helped the young bucks already, but you're only 25. And like you mentioned, going into your fifth UFC fight, it is just crazy to think about it right now. Just the momentum that you have and also the maturity and, even suffering your first setback against Trey Ogden in your debut in the UFC. What were kind of the lessons that you took from that, being able to learn from that and gain this level of kind of poise and maturity mentally where, some other young fighters may not necessarily be able to handle that. They might break down from the pressure or it might really get to them.
After the first fight that I lost, I felt that something changed inside me. I started taking this more seriously. I'm always a hard worker, so I'm not trying to say that I didn't train for that fight. Of course not. I'm always training, and I always felt that. I'm always stepping in the best shape of my life to each fight. So Trey is a hell of a fighter, and I feel that after that defeat, I learned that I need to adapt more. Because that was the first time that I do a fight camp here in Vegas. First time working with Eric. I still didn't work with Coach Capetillo, and it was funny because I have also right now here one of my jiu-jitsu coaches back in the day in Mexico. He's always come here to Vegas to support me the last month. So he right now is here with me, and I remember for that fight we were talking about how I need to get my boxing better. But I remember at that time we have still like 4 weeks for the fight, and I remember saying to him, "You know what? Next fight camp I'm gonna fix that." And at that moment, I thought that was the right idea. Next fight camp I fix that because right now we have small time. We have 3 4 weeks. It's not enough. Well, after that defeat, I learned that it's never too late to change things in fight camp. If you realize that you're doing something wrong the last week, change it. Like it doesn't matter. You need to fix. And well, after that fight, it's when I start working with Coach Hector Vasquez, with Coach Jorge Capetillo. I start working with Coach Dewey Cooper. I start adding all these tools. Now I feel that one of the main keys of my small success till the date in the UFC is that I can change what I need to change. If I need to do more wrestling, I'm gonna do more wrestling. If the fight's gonna be more in the stand up, I'm gonna do more stand up. The main goal that I'm trying to achieve here is be the most complete fighter that I can be. So that's why I never only training one thing. I'm always if I show you my shell, brother, you will think that I'm a crazy guy. 'Cause I'm training wrestling every day. I'm training boxing every day. I'm training jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. I'm doing strength and conditioning 3 times a week. I work with Eric once or twice a week. Wrestling classes. So I am really trying to cover all the holes, and that's something that I learned about that last fight.
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned just the commitment it takes and just being able to adapt. You got to be able to adapt at the highest level and be able to, like you said, fill in those holes where necessary. And it feels like with you, you talk about, especially your boxing, which I think is crazy because I think you're one of the most like talented young up and coming strikers personally. And you talk about improving your boxing, and I'm kind of jealous because I see that you train with one of my favorite boxers personally in the form of Caleb Plant, and that's got to be a remarkable experience just training with one of the best boxers in the world right now in Vegas. Ease of access across the world, some of the best facilities. You talk about jiu-jitsu, striking, boxing. What was it like training with Caleb Plant and just, like you said, having all those facilities and those opportunities to really level up?
It was great because, as you says, I'm not even the best martial artist in the world yet, and I have the opportunity to train with the best boxer or one of the best boxers in the world now. So having those opportunities are once in a lifetime. But I earned that. I earned those opportunities because my boxing coach, Coach Jorge Capetillo, he told me, he's always telling me that I wouldn't take you with Caleb Plank to do sparring if I didn't knew you can do it good. You know, so we do 14 rounds of sparring in 2 different days. And even Caleb says to me, brother, for being a UFC fighter, you have pretty good hands. Like I'm a good boxer. Nobody you in this fight you will see. Believe me, I've been improving my boxing a lot. I feel that the first fight that I have with Coach Jorge Capetillo, the second one was kind of like getting started, understanding my distance, understanding the power that I have, the range. But my last fight, guys, you see what I'm capable to do only with the jab. Wait for this fight because I'm really getting better. I'm investing I'm investing time in boxing. 2 years ago, after I lost the first fight in the UFC, I wrote in a book my short-term goals, and one of those goals was being the best boxer in the UFC. And for these last 2 years, I've been patiently working and working and working day after day after day, no stop, even in Mexico. And now I feel that I'm really, really above the average level of boxing in the UFC. So just give me a couple more years because I'm 25, and you will see in this fight. It's gonna be different.
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned taking the opportunities when they come. And it feels like I first and foremost, I got to congratulate you because you keep just making history, Daniel. You talk about breaking down barriers and being that beacon and just kind of layer in the next generation that bridges the gap. I got to congratulate you on making your commentary debut for the UFC. To just think, one of the most remarkable things I think is young fighters that step into different avenues and they do new things and they do them incredibly well. What was that experience like covering your first UFC event for UFC Espanol and just the overall experience? What was it like?
It was great, as a fighters, we really never understand all the work that other people does. Because I know that we have the hardest work because we're the ones that break their faces in that cage. But I feel that there's a lot of people evolve in this fight business. There's a lot of people that work in production, in commentating, in makeup, there's a lot of stuff that goes around for us to be able to step in that cage and fight. So for me, have the opportunity to see how everything works behind the scenes, uh, have the opportunity to talk with the UFC Espanol crew, the opportunity to commentate the fights. That's good. That was great. Having those opportunities is great. I learn a lot. I enjoy the work. Now I have a job, so it's great having a job doing what you love. Uh, and this is not the last goal. Same as I'm a UFC fighter, being the UFC fighter was never the goal. For me, being in the UFC is almost something that I knew it was gonna happen. You know, uh, the main goal is being a champion, and it's the same with UFC Spanish. Right now I'm in the commentating booth, but that's not the main goal. I really want to be able to do even the English broadcast. I want to be accomplished in all the areas. I'm always trying to be excellent in whatever I do. So that's another key of why I feel like having success at this age is because I'm not always I'm not just doing things for do it. I'm trying to be excellent in whatever thing I do. If I'm gonna clean the house, I'm gonna be excellent doing it. If I'm gonna be at the commentating desk, I'm gonna be excellent. If I'm fighting, I'm gonna be excellent. So that's the mindset that I'm always carrying with me, and that's the mindset that I felt everybody needs to have.
Absolutely. And you talk about just being the best at whatever it is that you do. I'm actually curious for somebody like yourself who is committed to the craft, training 5 days a week, commentating one other day. How much has commentating kind of helped your analysis or improve? Has it helped you improve in just the way that you see the game? Because I know a lot of fighters obviously talk about the impact that commentary has and just being able to see the game through a different lens. How much has it kind of helped you and shaped your perspective when you're training? Do you see things a lot differently or just a little bit differently?
No, we see things pretty much differently, and that's why the UFC like to have fighters in there, because we understand the things different way even than the people that they commentating the fights, we're fighters. We live that thing, so we can see things that other people can't. Sometimes you hit in the wrong spot and you hurt yourself, but kind of like you just make a small clinch or things like that, and people can't see what happened in that moment, but we can. That's our job, like communicate that part to the people. So, a friend, a coach Victor Davila, he told me that as a tip. Like he gave me that advice uh, before the last night fights happened. He told me, remember the word television. You tell what you see. You tell a vision. So for me, that really makes sense and helped me, like, understanding what is gonna be my job. I feel that I do it pretty decently. I've been having like good feedback of what I did. Of course, I'm still having problems, troubles like with some stuff, but it was the first time that I do it. Uh, I feel that I'm just gonna keep doing it if the UFC gives me the opportunity, and it's like a nice side hustle for me.
Definitely. And you talk about just learning as you go and continuing to be a trailblazer. Obviously, not going to be perfect in the moment, but just continuing to improve and sharpen the tools both inside and outside the octagon. And Daniel, I want to thank you so much for your time, brother, for the opportunity to speak with you and just for the great chat. And of course, we talk about the word trailblazer. You and a lot of the other fighters on UFC Noche have been nothing but trailblazers in terms of igniting the fire in Latin America and really inspiring fans, young fighters, and everyone alike to really step in there and give it their all in anything that they do. So I want to congratulate you on just another accomplishment in your young yet illustrious career and ask you on a final note. You talk about this being a massive card. Obviously, you're on a 3-fight win streak right now, a win in spectacular fashion over Esteban Ribovics. You're in the conversation potentially for a top 15, top 10 fight right then and there. Talk to me a little bit about, obviously, the goals for this fight, and what is your message to the supporters from Latin America or anywhere that support Daniel Zellhuber at home?
First of all, I want to thank you all my people, toda mi gente in Mexico. I feel that we're a small community yet, but people start realizing how hard we work and how really drive into this we are not. So, again, and not only the Mexican people, guys, having a lot of support here in America with you guys. Like you are the ones that are always asking me for doing interviews. You are one of my main supporters. So I really want to thank not only the Mexican crowd but all the American crowd because you are amazing guys. And I know that you are a big part of my career. So even if this event, Noche UFC, is for the Mexican crowd, I hope everybody here in America enjoy what we are gonna do for you guys. And besides what you say about the top 15, like about what you say about top 15, uh, I'm trying to use this fight as a way to confirm to myself what I always believe. I always believe that I was different. I always believe that I have something different inside me that since I was a kid, I watch I try to remember back in the day, and I always thought I have something different, something that drives me more. I remember talking with the kids when I was like a small kid, and I always felt that somehow I was meant to be something. So the message here is pretty clear. I've been saying for a long time that I, I wanted to wait. I wanted to be ready. I wanted to just keep waiting, keep grabbing the fights that the UFC give to me to keep building my name. And of course, the game plan is the same. I don't want to change stuff all of a sudden. But brother, that moment is coming. So I'm gonna use this fight first of all, as I say, as a way to confirm to myself that I am who I think I am. But also, this is a message to all the top 15. I'm coming for you guys.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait. That affirmation, as cold as it comes, and Daniel, I cannot wait to watch you fight against Esteban Ribovics. A fight that will cement, I think, a massive prospect going forward into the top 15 and, maybe even top 5 and maybe even potentially the next future world champion. So thank you so much for your time. And to the fans at home watching, do be sure to check out Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics on UFC Noche, UFC 306 on September 14th. A fight you do not want to miss. Daniel, thank you so much for your time, brother. As always, I will be linking Daniel's socials in the description down below. It's been me, Dan, from FightWave. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and have a great day, guys.